Aren't these headlines shocking? It makes one wonder what the noble lords and ladies of the court who thrilled to the divine music of Mozart would have made of such newspapers. Although, if truth told, if the newspapers had been there to cover the advent of the marriage of Figaro, they would probably have had exactly the same kind of headlines. Because when you get right down to it, this opera, which is one of the most accomplished and daring that Mozart ever wrote, is really all about sex. It's about an aging count who just cannot control his appetites. It's about his intriguing manservant who has walked right alongside of the count through a number of amorous intrigues and knows all the steps. It's about women who must scheme and deceive in order to preserve their virtue and their men. And it's about a young adolescent so caught up in the sensual swirl of puberty that he falls in love with anything as long as it's a woman. In fact, anachronistic though it may sound, the scriptwriters for both Dallas and Dynasty could learn a trick or two if they looked at the games of sex and power that are played by the masters and servants in this opera. In fact, there are those who look at the opera and say that perhaps Mozart himself was not just writing an airy bubble of Rococo comedy. He was in fact attempting something more satirical, attempting a sour and sly parody of the decadent ruling classes of the day. Well, this was certainly an element in the original play by Beaumarchais, in which he did look at that decadence with a satirical intention that was so great that after one of the first performances of the play, the King of France looked at it and said, "This play has the seeds of revolution in it." There are even those who say that Mozart was intending some kind of sly premonition of the revolution. And when you look at Figaro and the Count, the intriguing working man and the blindly arrogant autocrat, you begin to see, given the political and social tenor of the times, that such a revolutionary interpretation is valid. Everybody in this opera schemes and plots and spies, as in fact they were scheming and plotting and spying all over Europe at the time. And the fact that this opera was produced in just 3 years before the French Revolution in 1789 makes one realize that that kind of revolutionary perspective is very much a possibility. But if it is there in the subtext, it is not there in the music at all, which is just one of the most sublime exercises of masterwork that Mozart ever created. Quicksilver recitatives flash airily between the arias and the great concertante pieces, and those in turn startle us with the conciseness and the precise psychological observation and the boldness with which the ensemble pieces are used not only to achieve a musical resolution, but to develop the dramatic action as well. He was quite literally extending the form of opera, and that's why it is surprising to realize that it did not have a great success when it was performed in Vienna at first. In fact, the emperor required that it be removed from the repertoire after just a very few performances. It had to wait for its first performances in Prague before it gained its true acclamation. And this gained for Mozart not only more fame, but the opportunity to write his great masterwork, which was Don Giovanni. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. We have got two aristocrats who are lusty here, and one is sufficient for one opera. So let's stick to the one we know, and that's the Count Almaviva, who is creating something of a problem for his manservant Figaro. You see, Figaro is about to marry his beloved Susanna, but even while he is looking at her, trying on her wedding veil and inspecting his bridal chamber, he spots a door and he knows that it leads to a room where the lecherous Count frequently is to be found. And he realizes that the Count himself is harboring desires upon Susanna's virginity. So much so, in fact, that the Count is planning to resurrect the old medieval technique of the droit de seigneur, in which the aristocrat precedes his servant into the marriage bed and takes the maidenhead of the bride as his just tribute. It is all too shocking for words, and the entire court is buzzing with the scandal. And it is a shadow that falls over this marriage of Figaro, leaving nothing but sorrow for the Countess, shame for Susanna, and naught but woe for Figaro. But I think I hear him coming. So let me do what everybody else in this opera does and hide.
like 6 foot.
Don't you think this man is lovely?
Just 6'3".
Don't you see my darling Figaro? Don't you think this man is lovely? Don't you think this man is lovely?
Yes, my love, it is quite charming. Just the bed I'd like to see. Just the bed I'd like to see.
Do look here.
Yes, it suits you.
Do look here.
It suits you nicely.
Yes, I think it's most becoming.
Yes, my love, it is quite charming. Just the bed I'd like to see. To see. To see. As I see, made it all by herself. As I see, Susanna, my Susanna,
Your Susanna,
made it all by herself. As I see, all by herself, all by herself, made it all by herself. As I see.
what are you doing measuring the room, my darling Figaro?
I'm seeing if the bed which his lordship has kindly given us will fit happily into such a small space.
But not in this room.
Of course, this is the room his lordship has assigned to us.
You may sleep here alone then.
Why do you say that?
I have reason enough.
So why don't you tell me what that reason might be?
Why should I tell you? Aren't you my humble servant?
But I don't see it. Why object to a room that couldn't be in a better position?
Because I am Susanna and you're a blockhead.
Oh, thank you. That's very charming. Let me spell out more clearly why I think this room is perfect. Suppose in one evening my lady should call you. My lady should call you. Ting, ting! Ting, ting! What a long way you found it before. Or else if I'm summoned to go to his lordship, dong dong, dong dong, in a twinkling I'm there at his door.
Supposing his lordship was born and should send you. Supposing his lordship should send you. Ting ting, ting ting, with a message some 5 miles away. Ting ting, dong dong, dong dong. There's a way to the tea will find shelter. He's here in the room.
Susanna no more, Susanna no more, Susanna no more, no more, no more.
Now listen.
I'm listening.
I'll tell you a secret. I'll tell you a secret. But only love that the day was again.
Must I hear your secret? Must I hear your secret? The cause for suspicion is only to blame. 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 Is only to blame. Is only to
Be quiet and then I'll tell you.
Tell me, reveal the mystery.
There's no my lordship finds he's tired of hunting all the country for amorous adventures. So he means to come home now in the hope of a new one. But it is not the Countess. Let
You!
The very same, sir. And you can still know how useful he will find it if he gives us a room where I'm his neighbor.
Bravo, what devilish cunning!
Now you can understand the real meaning of the gracious protection that he shows us.
I do indeed, what noble condescension!
That's not all. There's more to tell you. Don Basilio, who teaches me singing, is in the plot too, and loses no occasion to inform me of this at every lesson.
Why, Basilio, the scoundrel!
Did you suppose then that my lord gave me a dowry just to reward your service?
It would be nice to think so.
Have you forgotten a certain very old established privilege that gives the lord of the manor the right of the wedding night?
Privilege, that barbarous privilege he himself has abolished.
He has, but he regrets it. And he would like to buy it back again from me.
Oh, would he? So much for faithful service. He'll always do as he pleases. I've been a fool. Who's ringing? The Countess.
Then I must leave you. Goodbye, Figaro, darling.
Have courage, my angel.
And you, little lover.
Bravo, dear lord and master. Now I see clearly why you've been so indulgent, and why this favor fits so well into your scheme. A trip to London, you as ambassador, me as courier, and my Susanna. Confidential attache. No, I'm hanged she will be. Figaro knows better. If you are after a little amusement, if you are after a little amusement, you may go dancing, but I'll play the tune. You may go dancing, but I'll play the tune, yes. I'll play the tune, yes. I'll play the tune. I'll teach your lordship steps and deportment, new kinds of capers you shall learn soon. I'll teach your lordship steps and deportment, new kinds of capers you shall learn soon, yes. You shall learn soon, yes. You shall learn soon. Be sure I will. Be sure I will. Be sure. Be sure. No, never, 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 never doubt it. But in my own way I'll set about it. I've got my plan. Try to deceive me, I'll do the same thing. To play at that game, yes, so believe me. I'll put a smoke in your ear if I can, yes, if I can. Try to deceive me, I'll do the same thing. To play at that game, yes, so believe me. I'll put a smoke in your ear if I can. I'll put a smoke in your ear if I can. I'll put a smoke in your ear if I can, yes, if I can, yes, if I can. If you are after a little amusement, if you are after a little amusement, you may go dancing, but I'll play the tune. You may go dancing, but I'll play the tune, yes. I'll play the tune, yes. I'll play the tune.
Well, there he goes, old Figaro, vowing to make the Count dance to his own tune. But Figaro does not realize that in order to call the tune, you must first pay the piper. and destiny does not like it, not even in bawdy comic operas, when it is cheated of its own ends. And so destiny has a surprise or two in store for Figaro. Two, in fact, are coming up right now, in the form of Dr. Bartolo and Marcellina, who are part of the prehistory of this event. And in order to understand what they're all about, you have to, in fact, get right out of this opera and into another opera called The Barber of Seville, written by Rossini in 1816, somewhat after this opera was written, but it is, in any case, what Hollywood would call a prequel. It tells us what happened before these events. And here we have Dr. Bartolo, who at the time had a beautiful young ward called Rosina. Well, the same Count, Almaviva, had a lust for Rosina, and Figaro, the impish barber, helped him to seduce and elope with Rosina, and Dr. Bartolo therefore has no reason to love Figaro. Marcellina, a lady of somewhat advanced years, also has a reason to dislike Figaro. He promised to marry her, and on the strength of that promise, she gave him a large sum of money. Well, she never saw the money again, nor did she ever see a wedding ring, and these two have now put their heads together and have devised a vengeance upon Figaro. They're coming into the story to tell Figaro that he either has to produce the money or produce a wedding ring or be exposed, and that is going to delay his own marriage to Susanna substantially, leaving her at the untender mercies of the Count. Figaro is about to learn that when you sup with the devil, you must use a long spoon, and his is not nearly long enough, as he finds himself sitting right next to the seething pot of Dr. Bartolo's vengeance. Bye-bye.
Then why in heaven's name did you wait until this morning to consult me on this matter?
I can assure you I don't mean to give in yet. It takes very little to break off an engagement even later than this stage. I've got my contract and I'll see fulfilled it. He has further obligations. Now then, our plan must be to frighten Savannah, make her inject his lordship's advances to save her reputation. Then, out of pique against her, he'll be sure to take my part, and Figaro will have to marry me then.
Well, I'll do what I can if you will tell me how the case stands precisely. Since Master Figaro once prevented me from marrying Rosina, I'll settle him with my old Marcellina. Now for vengeance, yes, now for vengeance. In outrage, forget so deadly in outrage. I'm no coward to stoop so low. I'm no coward to stoop so low, to stoop so low. I'll denounce him, I'll confound him. Like a liar, I'll get round him. I'll be even. I'll denounce him, I'll confound him. Like a liar, I'll get round him. I'll denounce him, I'll confound him. Like a liar, I'll get round him. I swear, I will them, I swear, I will them, I swear, I will them. I'm no fool, the man shall know. I'm no fool, the man shall know. Once again sees on the right of maturity, I shall not let it without impurity. I can embarrass him, worry him, harass him, do as I tell you and leave it to me. Once again sees on the right of maturity, I shall not let him without impurity. I can embarrass him, worry him, harass him, do as I tell you and leave it to me. Evil to me, man, evil to me, evil. Serve you knows me, I'm not the Figaro shall marry you. That scoundrel Figaro shall marry you. That scoundrel Figaro shall marry you. Shall marry you. Shall marry you. Shall marry you.
Well, there's one wedding present that Susanna could do without. Another woman laying claim to her husband, imagine that. And as if she doesn't have enough trouble in her life, she now has to act as the confidant for young Cherubino. Now, he is a page at the court, a young man whose flesh is troubled with the same itch as the one that troubles that of the Count, and he also falls in love with absolutely everybody. But the girl with whom he was caught is Barberina, the gardener's daughter. And the Count was so morally outraged, but we suspect also a little nervous of the youthful competition, and he has given Cherubino his marching orders. Cherubino has now come to Susanna and asked her to intercede for him with the Count. Now, Cherubino is one of the most complex and fascinating characters in this opera. He is a young man who, if you consider the direction of his life, could very easily turn into Don Giovanni later on. He is a character impelled by his own sensuality and quite heedless of the direction that it might take. Here he is used as a marvelously comic deus ex machina, but one can't help thinking when one looks at the darkly gleaming realities of Don Giovanni, whether Mozart did not in fact remember Cherubino as he wrote about that doomed Don and his passage into hell. But that descent is a long way off here. Here Cherubino is a charming lad, full of graceful compliments and pretty entreaties, especially when they are designed to save his own skin. It sounds as if he's coming now. I'll tell you more later.
Oh, Susanna, 'tis you, 'tis I. What do you want, sir? Oh, my sweetheart, a misfortune. Your sweetheart, what has happened? His lordship yesterday found me all alone with Barberina and was furiously angry. And if our gracious lady, who's my godmother, cannot manage to get me pardoned, I'll send away, nevermore shall I behold my dear Susanna, nevermore behold me. Oh dear, and so I was wrong when I imagined that you were sighing in secret for my lady. Oh, I can but adore her at a distance. I envy you, for see her as often as you want to. In the morning you dress her, at night you undress her. You're about her every moment like a shadow. Lucky Susanna. What is that you put there? Ah, that's a ribbon belonging to the nightcap of my lady, your godmother. Oh, give it me, Susanna. Give it me. You can't get it back, sir. Dearest, sweetest, the luckiest of ribbons. Not till my dying day will I return it. How can you be so naughty? Don't be so angry. A fair exchange, no robbery. Here's a song I will give you that I have written. What use is that to me? Sing it, Susanna, sing it. Sing it before my lady. Sing it to Barberina, to Martellina. Sing it to every woman in the castle. Oh, little Cherubino, you are crazy. Is it pain, is it pleasure that fills me? And with feverish shakes does it thrills me? At the sight of a woman I tremble, and my heart seems to burst into flame. My heart seems to burst into flame. My heart seems to burst into flame. Love that word sets me hoping and fearing. Love that word that I always am hearing. Love that word, how can I I sto come
Well, this is where it all gets very complicated. The Count is still intent on seducing Susanna, you see, so he is determined to come to her room. But Cherubino, who is still out of favour with the Count, has got to hide. So the Count comes in and he has one silent eavesdropper to his wooing. But before long, the Count himself has got to find a hiding place because the gossipy music master, Basilio, also comes into the room. He doesn't know that he has now got two silent eavesdroppers listening to everything that is being said. So he gossips merrily away, and that brings the inevitable conclusion.
Susanna, peace be with you. I came to ask if you'd seen his lordship.
And what should I know about his lordship? Pray go away, sir.
Wait a moment and listen, Emma. Figaro wants to find him.
Indeed, sir. You find the man who hates him as much as you do.
I see now how he serves. No, you are wrong. It does not always follow that he who loves a man's wife should hate the lady's husband. My lord, in fact, adores you.
How dare you come to me, sir, with these vile propositions? I will not listen to this talk of his lordship, his passions, his desires.
There's no harm done. It's a matter of taste, man. Yet I confess, I imagine that like every other woman, you would choose for a lover one who's noble and rich and quite discreet too, instead of yielding to a page boy.
To Cherubino?
Yes, Cherubino. Your little Prince Charming. Early this very morning he was hovering round about here, trying to enter.
What is slander? All of your own inventing.
Is it slander with you to keep one's eyes open? And what about that song too? Tell me between ourselves now. I need not tell you that I never repeat things. Was it for you or for my lady?
Oh, the devil was it
By
not?
the way, my dear Susanna, 'twould be wise just to warn that boy. You have no idea how he drools over my lady when he's waiting at table. If my lord were to notice, well, need I tell you, on that point he's quite savage.
Oh, you monster! You were always inventing lies and then spreading them about.
Oh, you wrong me. All I did was to tell you what everybody talks about. I've added nothing to it.
Well, sir, what's everyone saying?
It's disgraceful. Go at once, sir. Find scoundrel and drive him hence. Go at once, find scoundrel, drive him hence. My intrusion seems unwelcome. Pray forgive me, I meant no offense.
I'd rather my ruined, I would never let us
Go once, my intrusion seems unwelcome. Pray forgive me, I meant no offense.
I am ruined.
She's almost fainting, pale and trembling from top to toe. Pale and trembling from top to toe. Pale and trembling from top to toe. Come, my dear, sit down one moment. Fear no danger, no cause for woe. Fear no danger, no cause for woe. Fear no danger, no cause for woe. If I mentioned Cherubino, all I said, sir, was mere conjecture.
Cherubino, do not obey him. What he told to me is the truth. What he told you is not true. It is not true. It is not true.
I will no stretch no longer. Oh, forgive me. I will no stretch no longer. Oh, forgive me.
Oh, forgive him. I forgive him. I know more of him than you.
How so?
What?
What?
Really? Tell us how. 'Twas only yesterday. I went to see Barbarina. The door was locked, and when she opened, I thought her rather flurried. But this roused my suspicions. I looked in every corner, and then gently lifted from the table the cloth upon it. Oh, I see there. What you against her?
I'm lost forever.
Ah, how delightful!
Oh, you paragon of virtue.
Everything I let it speak.
I understand it all.
It's not really fun.
Just the same is there and all rail and sing.
Everything I
Oh, you paragon of virtue.
If I mentioned Cherubino, all I said, sir, was mere conjecture.
Oh, you paragon of virtue. Basilio! You go at once and tell Figaro to come here. He shall see himself then.
And he shall hear too.
Oh, what tangled webs we weave when we practice to deceive. Poor Susanna now has to explain the presence of the Count and the presence of Cherubino, and of course she calls for her trusty Figaro. He arrives, bringing with him a well-chosen audience, and he comes into the room and pulls one of his cleverest scams. He knows that the Count is intending to seduce his fiancée, and so he calls upon the Count's nobility and asks him to be the one to put the veil of blameless innocence on the head of Susanna. He then also appeals to the Count to be merciful to Cherubino. Now, the Count knows full well that Cherubino has heard every word that he said to Susanna, so he has no choice in the matter at all. He doesn't entirely relent, however. He does give Cherubino some kind of absolution, but instead of giving him a full pardon, he gives him a commission in the army, where his strategies will have nothing to do with seduction, a point that Figaro cannot resist commenting upon.
Now's the time when we have to remind you that the days of your childhood are over. Put the friends and the memories behind you. Dry your tears and behave like a man. Put the friends and the memories behind you. Dry your tears and behave like a man. Say goodbye to your frills and your satin. No place there for your buckles and laces. No place there for your airs and your graces. Buckle under and do what you can. Buckle under and do what you can. Say goodbye to frills and satin, buckles, laces, airs and graces, and sweet faces. Now's the time when we have to remind you that the days of your childhood are over. Put the friends and the memories behind you. Dry your tears and behave like a man. Put the friends and the memories behind you, dry your tears and behave like a man. Out from Britain, bright and early, mixing with the rough and surly, with your rifle on your shoulder, getting browner, bruised and older, with your helmet high up above you, heavy boots on, no one to love you, no one to love you, no one to love you. No more feasting, no more dancing, it's a life, baby, dancing. Up and down and then much higher, never ceasing to perspire, scratched to death by thorn and fire, coming under heavy fire, every landmark is a liar, never knowing where you are. Say goodbye to pills and satin, say goodbye, battles lit, say goodbye, airs and glaciers, say goodbye to pretty faces. Now's the time when we have to remind you that the days of your childhood are over. Put the friends and the memories behind you, dry your tears and behave like a man. Put the friends and the memories behind you, dry your tears and behave like a man. Pero vino unto glory, unto glory, unto war, pero vino unto glory, unto glory, unto war, unto glory, unto war, unto glory, unto war.
Well, there is Figaro in fine cynical form, but cynicism is not really what this opera is about. It is really about the waywardness of passion and the fallibility of the human heart. And nowhere are those things explored more gracefully than in the arias of the Countess. We see her here contemplating the waywardness of her own foolish husband and the silliness of her own undying love for him, and she prays to the God of love to help her to reconcile those two opposites. It's a marvelously profound moment, this. It has all the grace, the lyricism, and the depth of a great Shakespearean sonnet. And the folly of her love, if indeed it be folly to love, is completely absolved by the sublimity of the music. But see where she comes. mood of melancholy languor is not allowed to last. Figaro arrives to tell her of the Count's intentions to interfere with his marriage plans, and although she is not surprised, she agrees to go along with an attempt to thwart him, and she sits listening to a double deception unfold. Figaro will contrive to give the Count a letter, which will make the Count believe that Figaro and the Countess are having a little tete-a-tete in the garden. But at the same time, Susanna will also give a letter to the Count, leading the Count to believe that she will meet him in the garden for a similar tete-a-tete. But instead of going herself, she will send Cherubino, all dressed up in a fine lady's garment. The Count will thus be doubly punished. Not only will he have his amorous intentions thwarted, but he will have been bested by his manservant. They relish the plan, but before they put it into action, the Countess asks to hear Cherubino sing for her as enchantingly as he sang for Susanna.
What a hurry! And I seem forgotten to see
Wouldn't you know that the Count would always be in the wrong place at the wrong time? So here we have Susanna behind the screen, Cherubino in the closet, and the Count is furious, suspecting rightly that the suitor is in the closet. He demands to fetch his tools and to break it open, and while he goes out, they all swap places. Cherubino goes over the balcony, and Susanna goes into the closet, so that when the Count comes back and the closet is opened, instead of finding his wife's guilty lover, he finds his own guilty secret, and it seems as if Figaro is in control again. But in the interest of the whimsical destiny that rules this kind of opera, the gardener enters at this moment to report to the Count that he has seen somebody leaping over the balcony, and his jealousy flares up again, and Figaro has to do a silver-tongued fandango to get out of this one.
Oh, my Lord, what's the matter? Oh, my Lord, oh, my lady, I'll not stand. Every day from the window they throw down or the rubbish up to the garden, but was never so bad as today, sir. From the window they threw out a man.
From the window
And smashed my geranium
into the garden. The man that you saw very soon now.
ran away, that he did quick as lightning. Got away, but I can't tell you where.
I know, 'cause I saw him. Ha, 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 ha. Look, his noise. Off the noise. And one way off the noise. How can we believe it you say when you're drunk at this hour of the day? Clearly now, sorry, clearly now. A man from the windows,
From the window
into the garden,
into the garden.
They continue. You didn't see his face then.
That I did not.
No,
I did not.
oh, be quiet, you boozy old villain. It is simple to clear up the mystery. We don't need your elaborate history. If you're wanting a jump, it was me. If you're wanting a jump, it was me. Oh, 'twas you then. Well, why not?
Oh, was you then?
Well, why not? Well, why not? I cannot believe it.
Well, you've grown quite a lot since you've jumped, sir.
I can't.
I would swear you were just half the size.
It must be just shine in your eyes.
Good. Oh,
What do you
twas the
say?
boy I'll be sworn, sir.
Carolina! Carolina, then he must have returned in on horseback. For today he rode off to the town.
No, I'm sure that he was not on horseback, for no horse from that window came down.
That's enough now. Enough of this nonsense. So pursue. This is true. They say why. Fear of you, fear of me. I was nervous. I had slipped in to see my Susanna when I should have been otherwise active. You were fuming. You just read the letter. So I jumped to avoid any trouble, and I twisted my foot in my fall.
I suppose that the papers which I found there are yours.
Give them to me. This could be difficult, this could be difficult.
Chopin, your wits, man, Chopin, your wits, man.
Tell me now what these papers can be. Let me think now. It could be one of many.
I should think it's a list of your creditors.
No, I view it is more likely. Come tell me, you can leave us now. Leave us now, and quickly.
Just you wait till I catch you
Leave
again.
us now, off you go, I shall do as I please. Leave us now,
Just you wait till I catch you
leave us
again.
now, and quickly. Well, sir,
Oh, pages, the pages, confidential, the pages, the
come tell
pages.
me. Oh, my memory, oh, my memory. The pages commission that the boy handed over to me. What was that for? It needed a favor. Well, it's usual. Come tell me now, quick, sir. Well, it's usual to see a commission. Oh, the rascal's too much for my patience.
What's the cause of this intrusion? That old man is strange to see, that old man is strange to see. I forbid these interruptions. Let them state their case to me, let them state their case to me.
Silent contract to his book, and I make an application of the contract to be fulfilled. Contract!
I must have silence, silence, silence. 'Tis for me to judge this case. I appear for this lady as a counsel in this action for performance of the contract and for damages in full. I must have silence, silence, silence. 'Tis for me to judge this case.
I bear witness that this lady lent him money on condition that if he could not repay it, he to marry her agrees.
On the contract shall all be written over, and the truth I myself shall discover. All in order shall proceed. All things we expect, we shall make him look It was really expected, we shall make him look dejected. Yes, that was me, and the love, the tension, it just
Well, here we are in Act 3, traditionally the place where, in this kind of comic opera, the plot thickens to the point where it is so thick that only an explosion of comic violence can release it. And the short fuse on this comic violence is, of course, the Count. The Count is remarkably persistent in his ardor. He just will not leave Susanna alone, and he comes wooing yet again, but this time she's ready for him. She promises to meet him in the garden with absolutely no intention of going along. The Count, however, is deceived, but only partially deceived. A chance remark which he overhears passing between Susanna and Figaro makes him suspicious that treachery is afoot, and he vows and declares that he will never be bested by a serving man. And when this Count vows, everybody had better listen. Here he comes.
We are sure of our case now. Yes, she said so. They are trying to fool me. dare they? I'll punish them without any mercy. When I pass judgment, they shall know who I am. But when supposing he paid off Marcellina, how can he? He has no money. Besides, Antonio will refuse to let Susanna marry Figaro, a foundling who knows nothing of his parents. I will flatter the ego of that old drunkard. It is all in my favor. I shall have vengeance. Must I forgo my pleasure while some of my rejoice? Must I renounce my passion? He had his heart's desire. Must I behold my charmer? To love and crown united. When I for her am burning, dare she disdain my fire? Dare she disdain my fire? Must I forgo my pleasure while some of mine rejoice? Must I renounce my passion? He has his heart's desire. Must I behold my charmer? Love and crown united. When I for her am burning, dare she disdain my fire? Dare she disdain my fire? No, 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 no. I'll show him I'm his master, no more shall he defy me. Dare he be so presumptuous, dare he be so presumptuous, as venture fast to forward me. Dare he, my servant, laugh me, yes, laugh me, while I am mortified. I will endure no longer, vengeance alone inspires me. Yes, vengeance, only vengeance, shall satisfy my pride, shall satisfy my pride. I'll show him I'm his master, no more shall he defy me. Dare he be so presumptuous as venture fast to forward me. Dare he, my servant, laugh me, yes, laugh me, while I am mortified. I will endure no longer, vengeance alone inspires me. Yes, vengeance, only vengeance, can satisfy my pride, can satisfy my pride, can satisfy my pride, can satisfy my pride, can satisfy my pride.
The Countess, in the meantime, has added her own little twitch to the plot. Instead of sending Cherubino, it is she who is going to go in disguise to meet the Count in the garden. What better revenge could any wife ask? That when her husband lifts the veil of his illicit mistress and he finds not the beautiful face, but the accusing eyes of his wife staring straight back at him. It's a fairly malicious revenge. But to give the Countess her due, she is acting under duress here. She does believe that there are other kinder ways to deal with her husband, and she thinks back on the way things used to be when life and love was a lot simpler.
Is Susanna not here? I'm impatient to be told what his lordship has said to her proposal. And yet I'm doubtful if it was not too bold. My lord is always so impulsive and so jealous. But what's the harm? I keep the assignation wearing Susanna's dress while she is mine. Under cover of darkness. Oh, heavens, what humiliation I suffer, oh, cruel husband, to reduce me to this. Did ever woman have to bear such a life of neglect and desertion? As jealous fury, as insult. Once he loved me, then disdained me, and now betrays me. What must I do?
What a note of grace that woman brings to the proceedings, and what silence surrounds her. Not so Figaro. He is in court to answer the charges of Bartolo and Marcellina, and nobody is ready for the revelations that this court is going to bring. Of course, Figaro knows that he has never known who his parents are, and everyone sort of made the obvious deduction about that. But Don Coertse arrives with news that is going to rattle everybody and make this court of law an unexpected revelation.
You will marry her up? Pay her. Did she not lend you 2,000 silver crowns, sir?
I am a gentleman, and without the consent of my respected parents.
Who are they? Where are they?
I'm still trying to find them. It could take 10 years to discover where they are.
So you were found on a doorstep?
No, not found, sir. The truth is, I was stolen.
Stolen? Stolen?
Your proof, sir?
Can you bring proof, sir?
Proofs I have. The gypsy folk who stole me later came to love me and confessed they had taken me for the precious jewels and clothes I was wearing, a clear sign of my noble birth. And in addition, I have on my arm a curious hieroglyphic.
What? A strawberry mark upon your right arm?
You've never seen it?
Oh, heavens! I found him!
You found him?
Ooh.
Were you kidnapped by robbers?
Near to a castle.
Behold your mother!
My nursemaid.
No! Your mother!
His mother!
Don't you think it's quite a good thing, after all, that Figaro did not marry Marcellina? Well, anyway, while all of that was going on, the Countess and Susanna have been merrily plotting away. They have this time devised a scheme with a letter to be sealed up with a pin, which will be handed to the Count, promising the assignation in the garden. When he sends the pin back to Susanna, it will mean that it's all on in the darkness.
Write to him. I write to him. Oh, my lady, write what I tell you. I'll take the whole responsibility. You just write what I tell you. I'm ready. How delightful it is to wander.
It's taken us nearly 3 acts to get there, but eventually we're going to go to the church for a wedding. But it's going to be a double wedding, and it's going to include Marcellina and Bartolo. He's decided that he's got to keep the old girl quiet somehow, and the easiest way to do it is to marry her. But the point of this whole elaborate exercise, quite apart from the music, of course, is to see the letter with the pin go to the Count. So keep watching, because the action here hinges not upon a knife edge, but quite literally upon the point of a pin. Here we are in the garden at midnight, waiting for all the clandestine lovers to appear. And who is the first one to arrive? Well, not one of them. It's Barberina. The silly girl was supposed to carry the pin from the Count to Susanna, and she's dropped it. Now she's hunting for it and singing as she goes. But while she sings, Figaro listens, and something she says makes him aware of the fact that the letter which he saw the Count opening came from Susanna. And Figaro, the unshakably confident man, is shaken for the first time this evening.
Barberina, what are you doing?
Oh, I've lost it. I've lost it.
Lost what?
Lost what? The pin that his lordship gave me to take back to Susanna.
To Susanna? A pin? So already at your age, it seems you've begun to go running on other people's errands.
But why are you so angry now?
Can't you see I was joking? Look here now. Here is the pin. The pin his lordship gave you to give back to Susanna. I believe it was used to seal a letter. I know as much as you do.
If you know as much as I do, why do you ask me?
I should like you to tell me why his lordship sent you on such an errand.
He just said to me, "Here, Barbarina, take this pin and give it to your cousin Susanna, and say to her, this is the seal of the pine grove."
Oh yes, the pine grove.
But I forget he told me, don't let anyone see you. But you'll not tell I told you.
Oh, you can trust me.
There's no harm done if you know.
Oh no, of course not.
Goodbye, I must be going. First to Susanna, and then to Cherubino.
Well, in another part of the garden, the Countess and Susanna have swapped garments and have wandered off into the night, leaving Susanna alone to sing a beautiful love song. From her heart, it comes for Figaro. To those listening, it sounds as if it is being sung to the Count, and that is a honey trap in which more than one person could get caught.
Was made for love.
But in another part of the garden, the Countess is sitting, but in her disguise she looks like a Susanna. And along comes Cherubino, like a randy little mosquito, to buzz around and to ruin everything. In this kind of darkness, anything could happen, and it does. The Countess is sitting disguised as Susanna. Cherubino, in love, leans forward to kiss upon her cheek. But the Count, with the same intention, leans forward, and he gets kissed by Cherubino. He's angry, of course, and he delivers a round slap. But Figaro puts his face in the way, and it's Figaro who gets slapped.
What's going on? I will teach you better manners, so take that and then be gone.
Well, after that bit of slap and tickle, they all retreat, and the Count, singing to Susanna, who is actually the Countess, withdraw into the darkness, leaving the field free for Susanna, disguised as the Countess. Figaro, outraged by what he thinks he has seen, comes along and denounces the Count to the Countess. Susanna allows him to labour under the delusion, and the scene leads to a little bit of rough and tumble and a very happy ending.
Speak and I will obey you. Oh, my lady. Here at your feet I languish. My heart is all on fire. My passion could rise no higher. Take me, for you are betrayed.
And now is the time to punish him.
Oh, how I'd like to hold her tight.
I burn on the bridge.
Now vanish all my fears. All my fears. Oh, all my fears. Complete infatuation. How can such love be spoken? Give me your hand in token. Give me your hand.
Take that.
You hit me.
I'll never teach you, you rascal. Never teach you.
Doesn't he have teach you?
Teach you a lesson that you will not forget.
Oh, pain was ever
Did
louder.
you ever learn to me?
Oh, make it lovelier yet.
Forget.
No pain was ever lovelier. Make it lovelier yet. Oh, make it lovelier yet. Oh, make it lovelier yet. Lovelier yet. Deceive me, why your voice told me clear it was you.
Then you knew me.
I knew it was you, yet then my tears be kind and forgive me. Now no longer your love was true. Now no longer your love my lady.
It
is time for our melody ending. Let's console this poor lover at last. Let's console this poor lover at last. Let's console this poor lover at last. Nobody, I adore you. Kiss my wife and I love her. Oh, be graciously mine, I implore you. Hey, bring some light here. Help me, come this way now. What has happened? See, here's the villain has insulted and betrayed me, and whom you soon shall see. I'm astonished, quite confounded, surely proof this there must be. In vain is resistance, come forth now, my lady. See the reward of your passions here. Carabino, my daughter, my mother, the Countess, all is discovered, the traitress is here, the traitress is here.
Forgive me.
No, I denounce. Forgive her. No, I denounce. Forgive her. No, forgive her. No, forgive her. No.
May I then to pardon and last intercede?
The Countess, what vision eludes me. Oh, I behold her indeed.
wys graag musiekliefhebbers in Johannesburg en Pretoria daarop dat u heelwat geld kan spaar deur nou reeds vir die eerste 8 konserte van die Nasionale Orkees se eerste seisoen volgende jaar in te skryf. Vir die seisoen sal seisoenkaartjiehouers die eerste keer programme vir konserte gratis ontvang en die kom ook in aanmerking vir afslag op kompak laserskywe, plate of kassette en selfs verlaagde hoteltariewe. Doen gerus navraag hieroor en veel meer by die bemarkingsbestuurder Le Gaury Rylaan 28